Women who have an ex that they've never gotten over, why not? And how has it affected your life? I believe you never get over the ones you've truly loved, you just get better at how to deal with missing them. You stop being in love with them, but you will love and wish them all the best always. I think I will never get over my first boyfriend, even though we didn't really end things amicably, because we did have some really genuinely good moments when we were together. Months after we broke up I was still thinking about him all the time, but when he got a new girlfriend I realized that he no longer loved me and we were never ever getting back together. I have been dating and stopped obsessively thinking about him, but he still pops up in my head about once or twice a day and I don't see these sporadic thoughts ever going away. Wow, this but for my ex. I'm not in love with her, but she does pop in my head multiple times a day, if just randomly, or when I think of the last time I did something, travel, and realize it was with her. I too have been dating around, and it's easy to not think about that person when you're with other people, even your friends, but I don't think they'll ever really leave your mind. Everyone you love or interact with changes who you are in some shape, and that person you love changed you, whether you know it or not. I had one I never got over. The moment I saw him, I thought to myself that he was the most beautiful man I'd ever seen. He was fresh out of a series of horrendous relationships and didn't seem to notice me. I pushed the issue and he told me he wasn't ready to date, but we ended up dating a few months later anyways. It was complex. We had a lot of fun, but Essie's was very uninspired, though pleasurable, and neither one of us was in a good emotional place. Honestly, we couldn't have sustained a healthy relationship at that point in our lives. He was my best friend, though, so the breakup was brutal. After the breakup, we stayed friends, but fought a lot. I accused him of using me, he accused me of being fickle in love, of dating too soon after our split. There was a nasty fight or two where I just texted him angrily and cried and sat out on my porch all night. It got better. We stayed casual friends and started hanging out and chatting every now and then. Not often, mind you, we were super busy, but we always had a lovely time. My friends always joked that I was destined to angst about how hot and cool and smart he was every time we had a hangout. 2 years passed. I still loved him, but I had moved on. I loved other people. He didn't get in the way of that anymore. I still sent flowers every time he had an art showing, though. The most platonic flowers, I'd tell my friends. Sunflowers. Then a cascade of crappy things happened to me, and I somehow found myself only wanting to talk to him. He was there for me, my shoulder to cry on in the dark days as much as he'd been my cheerleader in the good ones. Eventually though, even those clouds started to clear, and I still wanted to hang out. I traveled to a faraway work function, and had a great adventure, and still found myself thinking of him every night as I closed my eyes. We ended up getting back together. He confessed that he still loved me one night after I, platonically, I thought, spent the night in his bed. Everything is a lot better this time around, somehow. This shouldn't be considered the norm, of course. It's a bit of an outlier scenario. We'd both assumed we would never be back together, and still valued each other as friends. We both did a lot of work in the interim to resolve some of our baggage. We had incredibly similar values. Most of the time, things don't align this well. I like to think that we just weren't ready the first time. What a beautiful story. My ex and I had an expiration date from the beginning. I was on my last year of my military contract. Met at a bar, and it went from a one-night engagement to dating and moving in with each other in matter of weeks. I hadn't had the best experiences dating, but he was such a wonderful person that I won't ever forget him. He taught me how a woman should be treated, but most importantly helped me communicate my emotions like a true adult. He's married and has a kid now, and there doesn't go a day that I don't think of him. Especially now that I'm in a FWB situation. I use a lot of what my ex taught me about communicating and just being a good human whenever me and my FWB can't agree on something. I had an ex that I cared about deeply, possibly loved. We weren't together long, 4-ish months, but came together under crazy circumstances. We had the most amazing SEs, but not a lot in common, and I knew we wouldn't really work out as he lived in Europe and I lived in North America, and we didn't have much beyond mind-blowing frequent SEs. He ghosted me after coming to see me, telling me he loved me, wanted to marry me, and wanted me to move overseas to live with him. I went a bit nuts because I had never been ghosted before, and thankfully not since. It took a lot of what would appear to be crazy internet sleuthing to find out he was okay. Long story, but he had some stuff going on that had me worried something might have happened to him, and it kind of became an obsession. I still think about him, and that was 13 years ago. I'm afraid this is something that is going to go on that long for me, for the rest of my life. However long it is I choose to live it for still. I'm over him emotionally, and I don't think we would have made a great couple in the first place, but there's always a place in my heart for him. The part one can't get over, though, is the lack of closure. He ghosted me, and we were pretty close friends before that, plus we had a really deep connection. At least, that's what it seemed like at the time. There are so many potential reasons he might have ghosted me, and I wonder about it very often. I don't want to reconnect because I'm afraid the answer will be too painful, and because I'm in a very happy relationship and I don't want to rekindle old emotions. Not having closure is the worst feeling, and you can't even do anything about it without becoming a creepy stalker. I'm the same way about the one that ghosted me. I also knew we weren't right for each other and was trying to decide if I should just end it or give it more time when he ghosted me. That's still in my history books as the hardest to get over relationship, even though it was one of the shortest. Ghosting is a special kind of nasty. I'm going through this right now and it hurts so bad. We dated for a year and a half and just got back from vacation and had a stupid fight and wound up breaking up over the phone. I reached out a few times for answers or clarity, had a little conversation on the phone that didn't really answer anything, but I asked to at least meet in person. He said last week he'd be down to meet this week to talk and still hasn't contacted me. I feel like I can't reach out anymore at this point, so I guess he's just ghosting me and seeing if he can get away with it. Why not just say no? I still can't believe it's true, and it's been 2+ weeks. We were best friends and I truly thought he was someone who would never do something like this. I have so many questions and I don't think I'll ever stop missing or caring about him. We had so many good times together, and I just miss the crap out of him. It's terrible. Even when you see the flaws in the relationship, it's terrible to lose a friend, and especially someone you thought you had a deep connection with. I agree that it's the ones you truly love that you'll never completely get over. There is a part of my heart that will always belong to two men. My first love who later became my best friend, and my first real boyfriend. In regards to it affecting my life, I don't think it does most of the time. The first has recently become a part of my life again, and is a friend. He has a girlfriend, and is exactly where I imagined him. The second is planning his wedding. I'm eternally happy for the both of them, as all I wanted was for them to be happy. I wish I could be happy for my ex, because she's been in a stable relationship for a couple years, but in reality it just hurts me worse, especially because our breakup was mainly a consequence of her bipolar disorder, and then she got better, but she never bothered to reevaluate how she broke up with me, and why the whole thing was messed up. I seem to have more issues with getting over ex-friends than ex-partners, for some reason. I still find myself having dreams about them regularly and wondering what they are up to. I wish I knew why, because on a conscious level I feel like I've moved on, but it's like my unconscious is trapped in the past. There is also a woman I fell in love with as a teenager who I sometimes dream about and still think of fondly. However, I don't feel as if I never got over her. I think for me, getting over someone means creating space for grief and sorrow, and also intentionally choosing to move on. It doesn't mean I don't care about them at all. I think part of the reason people can't move on is because they don't know how to grieve and truly allow themselves to feel that depth of pain that comes from loss. There might always be a small part of my heart that loves them, but ultimately I know I'm available and open to love new partners and friends. Ugh. Doing this now. Therapy, finally. It's helping me figure out why I've held on to 2 former relationships for so long. Working on the answer to that is helping me to move on. But really, finding a therapist who I really click with has made all the difference. Finally got a good therapist for the first time in my life too, and it's helped in almost every way, except in regards to my ex. I dated mine for 2.5 years. He was perfect for me in every way, except our one big deal breaker. He was constantly overstepping boundaries with other girls by messaging them and emotionally cheating. I eventually ended it because I knew I couldn't handle that. If not for that behavior, he was the one for me. It's now been a year and a half. I still think about him most days. I've cut him out entirely, as when he got a new girlfriend, he begged me to be his friend. Eventually found it, he was hiding this from his new GF. I hope I'll get to the stage eventually where I don't think about how things could been different. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.